Hey, shalom, brothers and sisters. Welcome back. I thank you again for joining me. Today, I want to talk about, I want to compare the imprisonment of Peter and Paul in the book of Acts. I want to read both of them to you and talk to you a little bit about it. But I'm going to start with Peter's Peter's imprisonment, thanks to Herod. Chapter 12. I'm going to start right here. It says right here, I'm going to start. Now about that time Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the assembly, and he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And that was the apostle James. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also, and those were the days of unleavened bread. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to four quaternion soldiers to keep him intending after the Passover to bring him forth to the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the assembly unto Elohim for him. So he was in there, and the prayers were going out back and forth and everything. And when Herod would have brought him forth the same night, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison. So he was heavily guarded. He was guarded, to the max. And behold, the angel of Yahweh came up upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, Arise up quickly. And his chains fell off from his hands. And the angel said unto him, Gird thyself, and bind on thy sandals. And so he did, and he saith unto him, Cast thy garment about thee, and follow me. And he went out and followed him, and wist not that it was true which was done by the angel, but thought he saw a vision. He was thinking he saw a vision. He's like, how could this be real? And he was caught off guard, apparently. When they were past the first and the second ward, they came unto the iron gate, and that leadeth open the city, which opened to them of his own accord, and they went out and passed on through one street, and forthwith the angel departed from him. He got out of there thanks to the angel. And when Peter was come to himself, he said, Now I know of the surety that Yahweh hath sent his angel, and hath delivered me out of the hand of Herod, and from all the expectation of the people of the Jews. And when he had considered the thing, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where many were gathered together praying. And as Peter knocked at the door of the gate, a damsel came to hearken, named Rhoda. And when she knew Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran in and told how Peter stood before the gate. And they said unto her, Thou art mad. But she constantly affirmed that it was even so. Then said they, It is his angel, or spirit, whatever. But Peter continued knocking, and when they had opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. But he, beckoning unto them with the hand to hold their peace, declared unto them how Yahweh had brought him out of the prison. And he said, Go, show these things unto James and to the brethren. And he departed and went into another place. Now as soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers what was become of Peter. And when Herod had sought for him and found him not, he examined the keepers and commanded that they should be put to death. And he went out from Judea into Caesarea, and there abode. So Herod couldn't find him. So he was so despicable and everything. He gave the keepers and the soldiers a death sentence. He was so irate and mad about it. But right here, I just want to read, starting with 20th verse. The next one, of course, is the death of Herod himself. And Herod was highly displeased with them of Tyre and Sidon, but they came with one accord to him, and having made Blastius the king's chamberlain, their friend, desired peace because their country was nourished by the king's country. And upon a set day, Herod, arrayed in royal apparel, and sat upon this throne, and made an oration unto them. And the people gave a shout, saying, "It is the voice of a mighty one, and not of a man." So they were saying he was, elevated up to, a mighty one. He wasn't a mortal man, but immortal, basically. And immediately the angel of Yahweh smote him, because he gave not Elohim the glory, and he was eaten of worms, and gave up the spirit. But the word of Yahweh grew and multiplied, and Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had fulfilled their ministry, and took with them John, whose surname was Mark. So Peter's miraculous escape, thanks to the angel, that guess it cost the guards their lives. And later on, Herod, because Herod was so pompous and everything, he thought he was, invincible. He thought he was more of a man. Now I'm going to go to Paul's, he begins a second missionary journey, and he's in prison with Silas, chapter 16 of the book of Acts. And I'm going to go to 22, start verse 22 to 40. It's here. Okay, 22. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them, because they were starting to stir. They were just spreading the gospel, and it was bad for business for these guys here. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely, who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison, and made their feet fast in the stocks. And at midnight Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto Elohim, and the prisoners heard them. So they were in there just singing and praying, and it's like they trusted in Yahweh and Yeshua. They trusted in them, the faith. It says here, and suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison, awaking out of his sleep and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had already fled. So he was scared. He was, in charge of them, and if they escaped, it was going to be his head on a platter. Well, I mean, basically it was what it's saying. But Paul cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Do thyself no harm, for we are all here." Then he called for a light, and sprang in, and came trembling, and fell down before Paul and Silas, and brought them out, and said, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" And they said, "Believe on the sovereign Yeshua Messiah, and thou shalt be saved in thy house." And they spoke unto him and the word of Yahweh, and to all that were in his house. And he took them the same hour of the night, and washed their stripes, and was baptized, he and all his straightway. And when he had brought them into the house, he set meat before them, and rejoiced, believing in Elohim and all his house. And when it was day, the magistrates sent the sergeants, saying, "Let those men go." And the keeper of the prison told this, saying to Paul, "The magistrates have sent to let you go. Now therefore depart, and go in peace." But Paul said unto them, "They have beaten us openly, uncondemned, being Romans, and have cast us into prison, and now do they thrust us out privily? Nay, verily, but let them come themselves and fetch us out." And the sergeants told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared that they heard that They were Romans, actually Roman citizens. And that was a different thing than, laying hands or being unjust to someone who wasn't a Roman citizen. That was like it was status. And they came and besought them and brought them out and desired them to depart out of the city. And they went out of the prison and entered into the house of Lydia. And when they had seen the brethren, they confronted them and departed. So that's the story about their escape or release. It wasn't really escape; it was a release. But they really did escape something that would have cost them dearly, their lives. But you have Peter on one side; he escaped, and all the guards were executed for failing to do their duties. And then you had Paul over here who prevented the prison, the jailer, from taking his own life out of that fear and out of that, I'm responsible for him. So there's a difference there, but I just wanted to bring that up to you. I'm not saying that Peter was wrong or anything. He did what the angel of Yahweh said, and I think it's a miraculous thing that there was an earthquake that struck when Paul and Silas and the prisoners were in there, and things developed the way they did. The jailer was baptized, and everything turned out, and they were released. But Paul, beaten. He was, ran out of town, stoned, whipped, everything. He's through his ministry. He took a lot. He took a lot indeed. But I just wanted to share them with you. Those two prison experiences of the apostles. And anyways, I thank you again for joining me, and hope you learned something from it. And please read your Bible and check up on those verses 12 and 16 of the book of Acts. And also, please give me a big thumbs up, hit that notification bell, and also subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. But until then, next time, brothers and sisters, peace out and shalom.